This episode was suggested by amateur scientist and Colin Pounds. Thank you. Another day, another Derby profile. Today's episode is on Just Steel. Let's go! First up, the stats, and these are quite impressive. 11 career starts, easily the most of this entire field. 2 wins, 4 seconds, and 1/3, and earnings of $724,545. Each penny earned the hard way. For major races, he started his Derby campaign as a 2-year-old with a abysmal performance in the Breeders' Futurity, but when he turned into a 3-year-old, a new leaf was created, and his new niche was finishing second in Arkansas. He competed in all 4 of Arkansas's Kentucky Derby preps, and in 3 of them, he got second place. 5 points from the Smarty Jones, 10 points from the Southwest, and 50 from the Arkansas Derby, with a blip in the Rebel Stakes, which simply just did not go his way. With the simple art of beating all but one horse, he's in the Derby field. For running style, he's a stalker. He's never too far away from the leaders, always 1 or 2 lengths behind, but he's also never the leader. Even if he does take the lead at the top of the stretch, there's always a faster horse to pass him. Or, if he is not going to get the lead, he's just going to be forever chasing an even faster horse. No matter what, he's always just kind of right there in the action. For strengths, he is a winner at Churchill Downs, something I've said a few times before in the last couple of episodes, but this time it's a bit more significant, as his biggest victory was at the Twin Spires, with a win in the Ed Brown Stakes. He's the most experienced horse in this field, with the Kentucky Derby being a race filled with 20 inexperienced horses. Having a horse with 11 starts under his belt and tons of unfavorable circumstances is pretty nice to have. It can't hurt to be an experienced horse in a sea of inexperienced competitors. He's also finished ahead of legitimately good horses. Despite the fact that he usually is chasing another horse, through his luck, he always finishes ahead of decent horses as well, such as Locked, who won the Breeders' Futurity, Timberlake, who won the Champagne Stakes and the Rebel Stakes, and Southwest Stakes winner and Kentucky Derby runner Mystic Dan. So for all the horses that do defeat him, he always defeats a couple horses by proxy. And he's an improving horse. This isn't just a horse who's gone to the well too many times and is all dried up before the Kentucky Derby. 3 of his 4 second-place finishes in his career came in his last 4 starts, with the exception of his isolated 7th-place finish in the Rebel Stakes. Those are some of his best performances to date, besides his 2 victories as a 2-year-old. That kind of consistency he didn't really have when he was a 2-year-old. So he has jumped up a step. If he jumps up another step before the Kentucky Derby, under the tutelage of D. Wayne Lukas, he could be a real serious upset. But now time for the weaknesses. This ain't the first time that D. Wayne Lukas has entered a experienced but not necessarily top-tier racehorse. In 2015, the example that pops out to me was Mr. Z. Mr. Z was quite infamous for finishing second and third in a lot of major Kentucky Derby preps, and I mean a lot. Despite that, he didn't really show up on Derby Day and finished 13th, although it can be argued that the 2015 Kentucky Derby was one of the most loaded, and in comparison, this year is not as such. Also, despite finishing second in 3 of his last 4 starts, he was never within striking distance of winning. He was always well beaten by another horse, whether it was Catching Freedom, Mystic Dan, or Muth. He never seemed like a winner in any of his races, always just desperately chasing and picking off most of the competition. Also, most successful Kentucky Derby long shots are closers rather than stalkers. Now, it's not impossible. Long shots like Mandaloon and Country House in recent years stalked and proved successful, but usually the stereotype of a long shot horse who proves to be a huge surprise comes in the form of a closer who takes advantage of tired horses, such as a Giacomo, Mind That Bird, or Rich Strike, or even runner-up horses like Golden Soul, or Commanding Curve, Looking at Lee, names like that. So, he's not necessarily the most popular long shot archetype, but there still is a niche to be had. There have been successful horses who stalked just like Just Steel, and I could really see this horse spicing up the exacta and trifecta and sufecta pools with a surprising finish. I have faith. I don't know why, it's mostly a hunch, but I feel like on Derby Day, he will either have one of his best showings or one of his worst. For that, I will give him a B grade. Hope you guys enjoyed this episode of Derby Profile. Comment down which horses you want to see me cover in future episodes, and I will see you guys next time.